Okay, hi everybody. I wanted to show you some things that we can do in Google Slides. This is a very beginner's introduction, and so I just wanted to be able to demonstrate a few features. This semester, I happened to accidentally find a few things that Google Slides could do, and I saw 2 things, 3 things, and then I figured, you know what, I'm just going to lean into this, and this is going to be the platform, the technology that I really learn. So I don't use a ton of other apps at this point, but this is one that has been my go-to for the semester. So the other caveat is that I am not by no means an expert at it. There are other people in the building who are really much deeper in their understanding of Google Slides. So this is a beginner's tutorial. So this whole slideshow, this comes from it's a template and that I've just modified. And so on the template, it's from Slides Carnival. And it started off with hello and a lovely picture of the original presenter. And gave the presenter's name, and it says, I am here because I love to give presentations. That part is not exactly 100% true, but that was something to include. If you've ever been to a conference, you'll know that most presenters give some sort of information like this. But I did want to jump right into what some of the things that I like about slides. So easy tricks to up your Google Slides game. Forcing a copy. This has been something that people have really appreciated. So I'm going to show you how to do that using a template. So what you see, the background, all that kind of stuff, that is a template from slidescarnival.com. Google also has their own templates. So if you've gotten any of the coaching newsletters, that comes from a Google Slides template. Setting a background. This one has been an instructional, an instructional practice that I have used a lot this semester. It's been something that has been very helpful for me, and so I'm going to show you how to do that. Creating drag and drop activities. These are things that that can replace some other activities that we do, and they can be helpful in creating visuals for your students to grasp onto. And then changing the page orientation and just showing you how you can turn a Google slide into something that looks like a doc but functions as a slide. And then creating multiple copies of the same slide so that you can allow kids to work collaboratively. I'm going to show you ways to turn a Google slide basically into a worksheet, a handout worksheet where they can, where each student gets their own. And then I'm going to show you how to make it collaborative instead, where you give one copy to everybody and then they can work together on the same slide. And you can see all of their work happening at the same time. So away we go. One way that I use slides is for Bellwork. Bellwork is generally used to remind students what they have already learned, preparing students for what they're going to accomplish, and to kind of recalibrate their brain to set them up for, in German class, if they come from an English class, they have a hard time sometimes making that switch over in their thinking. So this just primes the pump, shall we say. So some Bellwork activities: warming up, organizing. For me, organizing vocabulary, organizing ideas, things like that, ranking things, and explaining their thinking. So, for example, this is actually a crossword puzzle that I stole from somebody else. I didn't want to give you a German version just because I wanted you to be able to understand what was happening. But I'm going to show you this in the regular mode. So this presentation here, this slide here, the crossword puzzle is actually a part of the background. And the reason that that's important is because the students can't move anything on the background. Now they can click on this here and they can move this section. This here, they can move this section, but they can't move anything that is part of the background. So because this is part of the background, it is static. So the way to do that is to go to this background tab right here, you can choose an image. And when you choose an image, you have some options. I take screenshots of things and I upload it from screenshots. I've never used the camera function. I suppose you could take a picture of yourself and use it as a background. Might be a little creepy, but you do you. URL and photos I haven't really used. I have put things on from Google Drive, but Google Image Search is one that I really like. So if you want to have them have some sort of a graphic organizer, all you do is you type in graphic organizer, and Google will show you all kinds of different graphic organizers. You can choose any of these to put on the background of your slide. I'm going to switch mine up. I'm just going to put this here. So if I wanted to have them brainstorming something, or I don't know, if I wanted to have them create a paragraph, and this was how I was going to have them organized. Now this is static. Now I can put a text box in here. If I open this in Notability, I can write directly on it, but this is not going anywhere. I can't change, as a student, I can't change this. So obviously this doesn't work real well with the crossword puzzle clues I have here. So I'm going to switch this back, and I could just click this back button, but I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, we go to background, we go to choose image, and this one, the crossword puzzle, that was a screenshot that I have on my desktop. So I search my screenshots. I know that, oops, no, it's this one. This one is the crossword puzzle. And then I've got my crossword puzzle here. Now, for me, I personally think the way I've used it, I would give this to them in Notability, and then they could just write directly on it using the pen, the Notability pen option. Another option that you do have, it's extremely time consuming, and I personally don't care for it, is you can insert a little text box in each one of these boxes and then have them fill it out. I did one and then got frustrated with it, so I didn't want to do it anymore. But I wanted to show you what it looks like. So if you insert a text box, let's see, one down is a state of matter with no definite shape or volume. So that's going to be a gas. So I can insert the letter G there. But then I have to have an individual text box for each one, and that just gets really time consuming. So it's an option, not my favorite option, but it is an option. So this is the changing of the backgrounds. It's also good, especially if you're in math or a world language, and I'm sure there are other applications as well. The clues, I like to have those be set as images as opposed to a text box. So if I put a text box in somewhere, a student in a world language class, a student can highlight that and stick it in a translator, Google Translate, whatever. But I don't want that. And also I think there are screen readers that do that for math too, so I don't think a text box is the best option here. Instead, if you put it in as an image, a student can't highlight anything and stick it into a translator or an image reader or anything like that. So it just makes it a little bit more difficult for them to take the easy way out. So I prefer to have these kinds of things as an image. You can do the same thing, or you can just upload an image here, and it doesn't have to be a background, but crossword puzzles, word searches, those kinds of things, these are all easy things to put into slides. So this would be something that I would have them do in Notability. Again, so they can find they should know that to say that in German, it's ich soll, so they would have to mark this phrase here, ich soll. And so they're just real quick, easy things that they should know and they should be able to work with pretty easily. Now, for activities like this and like the crossword puzzle, if I don't want them to collaborate with each other, if I want them to work on their own, they have their own worksheet. I'm going to force a copy. And by forcing a copy, that makes it work, that makes Google Slides or even Google Docs, that makes it work like a worksheet. You hand it out to the students, they each have their own, they can't see what's happening on anybody else's. And in order to do that, the instructions are here, letters A through D. You'll delete everything from the word edit on the URL. So up here in the URL, you'll see where it says edit hashtag slide equals ID dot blah, 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 blah. You're going to take the word edit and everything behind it, and you'll delete that. You will then type the word copy. And once you put the word copy in there, then you can highlight and copy the entire URL and give it to students. So for example, I could put it on here, and then when students click on this copy, then it would take them to a different screen. So it would take them to this screen here, and the students would have to make their own copy. So then they would have a worksheet. When I have that URL, it's important then to go back up here and change copy back to edit so that I can keep working on the document. So delete everything from the word edit on the URL, replace edit with copy the URL to share with students, and then go back and replace copy with edit on the original URL. So that's how to make it a worksheet. If I wanted students to collaborate on something, for example, this is an activity, this is not exactly, it's under the Bellwork category, but this was really more of a formative assessment for me. In my class, we were studying the differences between Halloween and Allerheiligen, which is All Saints Day, and how Germany and Austria, how they celebrate these holidays differently. So the students had to take these various images and they had to organize them into which ones are strictly Halloween, which ones are strictly Allerheiligen, and then which ones fit in both categories. So for example, witches are all about Halloween. We don't do witches in Allerheiligen. Skeletons, however, those would be something that would be a symbol. Allerheiligen is about celebrating the dead and things like that. So we just move things, and the students can drag and drop these images as well. So once they're all organized, then we can talk about it. So one of the things that I would like my students to do is I would like for there to be 3 or 4 groups, and I would like them to work on one of these together. But if I only have one slide, then everybody's working on the same slide. So everybody in my class of 25 is working on the same slide. So what I can do then is I can go over here, and if we're looking at slide number 8, if I have that highlighted, I can click on Command C. That copies the entire slide. And then if I click in between the slides, I have this slide copied. I want to create a second version of it. So I'm going to click here so I have this line in between slides 8 and 9. And then I go Command V. And now I have 2 copies of that slide. And I can do that again. Command V. And I can do it again. Command V. And then I have 4 copies of this. So I can have 4 groups. And I can tell however many. I can tell 4 students, you guys are working on slide 8. This group is working on slide 9. The next group is working on slide 10. The next group is working on slide 11. And if they all know which slide they are working on, they can go into breakout rooms and they can focus on slide 8. And you can stay in the main room and you can see what's happening on slide 8. And you can also see what's happening on slide 9 and slide 10 and slide 11. So if slides 8, 9, and 11 are almost done, but nothing has happened on slide 10, you can go into that breakout room and say, hey, how's it going? What's happening here? So that's one way. You have to do this in order to do this, you need to share this as a regular slideshow, not the forced copy. Forced copy means everybody gets their individual and they can't see what's happening on everybody else's. In order to have everybody working on the same slideshow, then you just have to share it to Noblesville Schools, where anyone in the group with the link can view, and then copy that link. And this link does not end with copy. This one ends with edit. So that's how you can make that a little bit more collaborative. So these are some things that I have done that have worked pretty well for me. Some other things that you can use Google Slides for are icebreakers. Our students this semester, this school year, are really having a hard time talking. So they need opportunities to talk. They need opportunities to talk to each other, to the teacher. But they also need kind of some structure because they're so unused to having to talk now. They need a topic to discuss. So this slide here, this one comes from Jess Siebert. She got it off of Teachers Pay Teachers. It was a free slide. And what this person has done is simply made a background. This is a background here. So again, nothing can move except for these options here. So you can ask your students, okay, this or that, which one would you choose? Would you choose tacos or burritos, or video games or movies, outdoors or indoors, night or morning, sour or sweet? Which are your favorites? So you go to burritos, then you can just talk about it. Hey, oh, you thought burritos. Why? Why burritos? And it just opens up a discussion. Another option, and this is not slide specific, this is just an idea for an icebreaker. I'm going to use this on Friday in class, just a shout out. So everybody finds their name and they're going to give a shout out. So after everybody's filled this out, I'll give them 3-4 minutes to fill it out, then we'll talk about it. Simone, what was something that made you laugh? Evan, what was something that you really enjoyed doing? Gabby, who would you like to make a shout out to? Who in class deserves a shout out? So they just write it next to their name, and it's always something positive. So, and we'll just talk about whatever they want to, whichever version they want to do. So that's another icebreaker idea. Something else is showing kids what you're passionate about. I hate to admit that I am actually quite passionate about television. I do love my TV shows. I love my specific TV shows. And when I present things to students, I want to present them in a positive manner. So instead of saying, rank these from best to worst or anything like that, I like the good, better, best system because I don't need the negativity in my life. So for good, these are all shows that I like at least a little bit. I'm going to do an unpopular opinion here. Friends is probably my least favorite, so I'm going to put that in the good category. Brooklyn Nine-Nine that's up there with the best. That's one that I really enjoy, so I can move that one here. And if you have never watched the show Psych, I will never stop promoting that show. That is probably my favorite of all time, and it's absolutely amazing. Because it's something I'm so passionate about, my kids are going to know that, even if they never watched the show or they don't know anything about it. If they see something out, they'll know that that's something, they'll connect that with me. So just giving them something to connect with that too. It's pretty amazing. And then if they don't know things, like let's say they've never watched The Good Place, which is also pretty good. They just put it in the I don't know this one category. And then we can talk about it. And other kids can say, it's okay. It's not my favorite. But, maybe if you're bored, you might want to watch it. Again, just giving them something to talk about, something to be able to connect with. And finally, this is one that I have that I stole off of a teacher group that I have on Facebook. If you have a few minutes, just giving them something to play around with a little bit. This is a gingerbread house activity, so you can just drag and drop. And I'm not sure how they've made this to where you can do it multiple times, but if you want your gingerbread house to have little mini icebergs, I think they're supposed to be icicles, but if you want them to have little mini icebergs, you can do that. Just giving them something a little bit fun to do. Sometimes I do things like this during the 5-minute wipe down, and they can finish it whenever they want. It's not for points. It's just a little bit of fun here and there. And we are definitely devoid of fun this school year. So we're using this as another way to break the ice and to give them a little sense of community in our classrooms. For this type of an activity, 15 minutes is actually quite a long time for an icebreaker. For me, I usually spend 5, maybe 10 minutes on an icebreaker. And I don't do them every day, but once every few days, just to get them when I feel like they need more talk. That's something that I use it for. So formative assessments for quick checks for understanding. Honestly, these types of activities can be used for all of that. Visual demonstrations of learning, a pulse check to open up dialogue about progress. If you put something in one category, why? Why did you do that? So KWL charts are good for that. This was in Craig's presentation. Which gifts would you categorize together? It's just a sample of how to bring things together. Like candles, for me, candles are about as useful as, as a mug. Like those would not be my favorite gifts, but these are options to include. Also, I didn't do it with this slide, but I wanted to show you when you incorporate a picture. So if you want to add a picture, all you do is you click on this insert image button here. And I like to search the web because they've got everything that I need. And then let's say I want a picture of Superman. I don't have any reason for Superman, but we'll do Superman. Well, if I put some of these images in, if I use this one, then it just covers up everything else. That has a really creepy looking Superman. That just covers up everything else. So I'm not crazy about that one. So I'm going to delete him. Instead, if I search Superman and I add the word transparent, then I get some options where if I put this Superman here, and it doesn't work for every picture that I use, then everything around him you can still see through. So it's really just his image that is not transparent. But all this extra area here is still transparent. So you can have him standing on top of that mug if you wanted to. And it kind of adds a little bit of dimension to your slides. So, KWL charts, I really like for students to organize their thinking and to organize their ideas. So a lot of graphic organizers work well in Google Slides. How long these things take, it all depends on what you're doing. 5 to 10 minutes for a Bellwork or a quick check. But I use slides. If it's a writing it may take 30 minutes for one single slide. So to kind of wrap up, I want to show you a lesson plan. It's a 4-slide series, and I just want to show you about how I thought about this lesson and how I built it. And this was collaboratively done with my PLC, so it was just something that kind of grew out of our brains that I decided to put into a slide. So we're working on some modal verbs, and we're working on how to use them. But I wanted to show students how to use them, how they're used in natural speech. So I found this clip from Gravity Falls, and I had my students listen to the speech, and all they had to listen, it's way too hard for them to understand everything, but they were just listening for these 3 words, and they had to make tally marks of how often they heard it. And then we talked about it, and they said that they heard, some kids said that they heard kan twice, some said they heard it 4 times, and I told them, okay, well, you actually should have heard it about 3 times. And they told me that they heard zol twice. And I said, okay, well, when you hear that, you need to let me know, because you actually didn't hear that. You heard something, but it wasn't zol. And then most, they said they heard it 1 time, and I said, okay, that's good, but you need to listen a little more closely because it was actually in there 4 times. So then we take another listen, and this time, after we listen to it a couple of times, we're going to change their focus. And so I want to know not only the word that you hear, do you hear any words surrounding it? So the first kan, they heard the word chocolate, which means chocolate. So they can kind of make a guess about what's going on there. And then ich kann dir helfen, they heard the entire sentence for that one. And then we worked through some other things, and then they told me where they heard the zol, and we talked about what they actually heard versus what they thought they heard. So these were some activities that we did, and then we did some writing. So they showed me that they could use the word zol, the word mus, the word kan. So they should, has to, and is able to. And because our students are a little bit weaker this year, or they just didn't get as much at the end of the year last year, they need a lot more structure. Normally I would just say, write me a paragraph about what this character does. But they need a little bit more structure, and so I've given them the structure over here. And I always leave a little bit of space on my slide to where in class I can add a text box, and I can show them a little bit more of what I need. So instead of telling them to write a paragraph, here are the 10 sentences that you need to write. So your start off is, there is blah, 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 a man, a woman, a child, a girl, a dog, whatever. You give the character a name. What is the problem they're addressing? And so I tell them braucht, the word braucht, it's needs, is a helpful word here. And this is a vocab term that we're using. Okay, so what do they do? What are the effect and details? And then give us some extra details. And then finally a wrap up and conclusion. So this is a story that we wrote. And so I've highlighted all the times that they've used the important words here, this kan, muss, and soll. And then I've also highlighted these ends because they go with it. That's just German grammar. But then I also give them the rubric. And normally, when I give them the rubric, the slide looks like this, because we talk about the response to task, the organization, and the grammar and vocab. Those are the 3 criteria that I'm grading them on. But there's always something that I need them to focus on. Maybe it's a grammar point, maybe it's an introductory point, or maybe they need to write a conclusion, or whatever it is. So I always leave myself some space so that I can add some information about what they need to focus on. So this was the extra information that we went over with my class when we did this activity. So to summarize, we'll go back to our main focus point slide. Remember the force copy. This makes a worksheet. So no sharing or seeing or collaborative work. But it's good if you want them to each do their own work. Using something like Slides Carnival or Google Slides templates, that can be helpful to help pace your slides. Setting a background. Remember, you go to Slide. You can find it from Slide, or you can just go straight to the background button and then choose an image. And that can allow you to create a word search, a Venn diagram, a crossword puzzle, some sort of graphic organizer. And then drag and drop activities. All you have to do is you create your Venn diagram, your whatever, and then whatever it is that you want to drag and drop, you can have them drag text boxes and organize thought processes. It doesn't have to be pictures. I like pictures, but it doesn't have to be a picture. But in order to make the pictures, you just do an image search, and Google will give you some images if you want. And the last thing I wanted to show you, we did multiple copies of the same slide. So this is the number 6. This was just copying your slides so that you can see the different groups working at the same time. The last thing I want to talk about is changing page orientation. So for this one, I'm going to start a new slide. And sometimes you just want something that looks like a worksheet. And so in order to get a regular slide, so Google likes this 16 by 9 layout. In order to make it look like a piece of paper, a regular old worksheet, you go to File, and down here, there's going to be a changed layout, and my face is covering it, so hopefully, yes, page setup. So Google auto defaults to widescreen 16:9. You can set a custom one, and a piece of paper is 8.5 by 11, and then it just looks like a sheet of paper. So if you've been to any of the sessions where the teachers who are using digital notebooks, this is one of the places that they start. It just making it look like a sheet of paper. And so from there you can change things around however you want, and incorporate whatever it is you would like. So one of the things, one presentation that I have used, find that one. Okay, well, I'm not worried about that. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I will be happy to help. Have a great day.